Welcome to Have You Read Any Good Books? I'm Mavis Applewater, and joining me today is the one and only Allie Spooner, author of over 40 books. My goodness, Allie, you're an overachiever, especially this month. Last month, technically. One, two, and three. Is the new one, Sullivan's Trace, out yet?
No, that comes out in October.
Okay, so we got a little pause here.
Yeah.
Allie is known for her romances and paranormal. I dig paranormal, if anyone hadn't guessed that by now. Uh, her first two books out, though, Blank White Page and the Wolf and the Unicorn, which you might think is paranormal, but it is not. So not. Okay. Now, let's just jump right in there. If you would like to hear Allie reading from these, you also have a YouTube site with the wonderful Annette Mori, Triple
I do.
A. Links in the description below to where to get Allie's books, her YouTube site. You guys are hitting Left Coast this year too, right?
Right, right.
So put that in there. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and visit the gift shop. Nobody ever does. I don't even visit the gift shop. Cheers. Now, you were inspired by many things, and I'm not going to ask what inspired the Wolf and the Unicorn. Now, The Wolf and the Unicorn is a story about a couple who've been together for a while
Right.
and meet another person. And let's see, we have it's steamy. I heard you reading from it. I did check that out. That was awesome. That was so cool.
It was a good lesson for me because I realized that, hey, it's so much easier to write it than it is to read it out loud.
It is so true. I was in Minnesota once, and there were only a couple people showed up at the bookstore, and you're reading something that steamy, and people are sitting like extremely close to you, and it's like, oh my God, this stuff is like kind of out there. Why don't you just put my mom in the audience, right?
Yeah.
But it no, it's super book and I think the concept of and I always mispronounce this word thruffle is very modern.
Yeah.
Now, is that what led you into? Because you've certainly written many romances, many for your publisher, which is Affinity Rainbow Publishing, fabulous company.
Yeah. And coming up with the idea for this book, I troll Facebook all the time, and I keep seeing a lot of requests for polyamory books and this and that, and in looking, it was very difficult to find a polyamory book with three females, two
Right.
males, a female, two females, and a male, no problem. And I took this on as a challenge to hopefully show readers that this type of relationship can be very successful as long as each other's independence and they practice dignity and respect with each other. And it's definitely the most steamiest thing I've ever written, but it seemed to really fit the characters.
And our characters are, I'm going to check my notes here. Keegan and Celeste.
Keegan and Celeste. Keegan is a orthopedic surgeon. Celeste is the basically the head of the nursing department at the hospital. And the new player in town, the new kid in town is Sky. She's a new pathologist that has just begun her medical career.
Okay. And there's an intimacy to this book. I mean, everyone thinks, oh, it's all about the sex, and it's not. That's not a relationship.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. And I think that was important to, show that to romance, there's a very intimate, very sensual aspect to it. It's not just all about sex and what goes on in the bedroom. It's how they interact and relate to each other. And I picked three characters that I think Sky is kind of a combination of both Celeste and Keegan. She likes stuff that each one of them does independently, and the other doesn't. So she's kind of a good mix for them to, learn new things and build a relationship with the three of them. There's a lot of sensual stuff. There's a little bit of comedy in there in a couple of spots. But I thought it was very important to build that intimacy outside the bedroom into the story.
Yeah, I mean that's a real relationship though. I mean people are like, oh, they like they look at like still look at gay couples and it's like, well, it's all about the sex. No. Yeah, you haven't married for decades then. You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's about being able to be with someone nonstop and those intimate moments. You have a banana pudding scene
yeah,
that expresses that. It's like that's intimacy,
yeah.
and it's not sex.
Right.
And wow, you have so many books. It's just I was like going through. We I don't know if you're familiar, but before we get to the chat, people will see a montage of your books, and I had to whittle it down and still kind of get some length to it. It's of your book covers, you kept me busy there, Allie.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a busy 11 years.
Oh, 11 years. Does it seem like it's gone by so quickly? Yeah, you just start to this. Now,
Yeah.
what was your first book? Right.
Bailey's Run was the first book that
Oh,
I
okay.
published with Affinity. Yeah.
That's going back a ways. Wow.
Yeah. 2013.
13. Wow, everything's going by so quickly these days. Maybe it's because
Yeah.
I hit my senior years. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes faster and faster.
Yeah, and I haven't. Well, you're not living in Florida anymore
Yes.
because,
Yeah.
oh, you are. Okay,
Yeah.
because I got confused by the time zones thing. Because you said you'd be in Central Zone. Okay.
Right. The Western Panhandle Central. And the rest of Florida.
Oh, the pan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now that makes sense. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Because I'm on Pacific time, so I was like doing the math. I'm like, wait a minute. I had a mini panic attack yesterday when I saw Florida in the notes. I'm like, oh my, wait, is she going to be waiting for me an hour earlier? Oh my God.
No.
No, but then I checked our next book, which there's the cover is behind me, folks, underneath the Beatles, where I put everything. Uh, a blank white page, the blank white
Right.
page, which came out July 1st,
Right.
and completely different. And I think a lot of almost spiritual feel to it. I think because of where it's located. It's in a place that's on my list of places I need to go, and that's Alaska.
Yeah.
Now, was there a lot? Did you go? Was there a lot of research?
I went on a very short cruise to Alaska back about 7 or 8 years ago,
Hmm.
and just it loved it. I mean, it just months wouldn't be enough to see everything that there is to see in Alaska. In my opinion, it's just beautiful country. I love the outdoor shows, Life Below Zero, different things like that. That
Oh
shows
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and there was a good bit of research to get some facts right, but it was a very fun story to write, and if I can just share a little of the motivation for that, my oldest sister was battling cancer, and uh, I kind of modeled the main character, um, Tatum, after her. She's very brave. She's confident. She's independent, and I wanted to write that book in to acknowledge her courage and her strength in fighting her battle. So that was the whole premise behind that book, and showing that even though you're faced with many challenges, you have the will and the fight to overcome.
Yeah, you mentioned your sister in the dedication of act, so I heard you talking about it. I got a little weepy there, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So it's Tatum Chaz, corporate officer, international family empire, ends up in, how does one end up in the middle of Alaska? Going from
Well,
being a
as a
one percenter to like, here you go.
well, as the story progresses, Tatum finds out that the cabin that she is being sent to is her father's fishing cabin that she knew nothing about, where he would sneak off, once a year or so and do a week's worth of fishing, uh, salmon fishing, and so that was an available property to him. The the brother Charlie got shipped off to somewhere in eastern Canada, and was in a similar situation, but it was family owned.
Right. So dad wants them to get a taste of life outside of the
Dad
boardroom.
Dad is getting ready to retire, and both of his children are very strong, very different characters. Tatum is the more touchy feely, uh, charismatic person, where Charlie is the bean counter. He's the accountant, he's the numbers man. Is good with facts and figures, but not so much with closing deals. So he sends them on this 6 month adventure of survival and resiliency to see who he feels like has the creativity to take the company into the next level. So that was the challenge that he faced both children with.
There you go. What could possibly go wrong? Or right.
Everything,
And then
everything.
extremely right, we hope.
Yeah, and you know, it's a story where Dad's plan kind of backfired on him because Tatum fell in love
Hmm.
not only with the area but with the people and with a very special woman. And Charlie came running home 3 weeks after he got there when all the supplies ran out. He didn't have the skills or the fortitude to get out and hunt and forage and provide his own firewood.
Yeah,
So
Charlie doesn't really strike one as the outdoorsy type,
no,
or
no,
not even a people person. I'm
no,
just saying.
yeah, yeah.
Now, your books have covered a lot. I mean, those two are a great example. You got your hospital people who are building a relationship. The three of them are building a relationship. And then you have your two one percenters who are being challenged, but survival skills. Dad says, go out there, prove to me you can handle this kind of. And one will, one won't. Will they? Won't they? Will she fall in love? Will they make that work? Um, these are two very different books in a lot of ways. But you also have other books that are paranormal. We got cowgirls. We got hockey players. You know, you have
Yeah.
a lot of interests. Do you
Right.
find that you just wait till you're inspired and that's it? I've got to start taking notes and they take over, your characters take over?
Um, Paranormal's always been my first love.
Yeah.
Sasha Thibodeau of the Sugarland series was the first character that really reached out and grabbed me. I mean, she still talks to me to this day, and it's like, come on, I need a fourth book. I need a fourth book, and it just hasn't happened yet. But she was probably my first true love as far as writing a character, because I think she was just, an awesome character as a vampire in New Orleans.
Oh, she's
Uh,
incredible.
yeah, and I try to write things different from what you see being published.
Right.
I try to stay away from typical tropes.
Yeah.
It's got to have some romantic element in it to please the publisher. But I like to have everyday characters. A moonshiner. An athlete. That's not necessarily a professional, but somebody that most of us in our day-to-day lives can relate to. A truck driver in Bailey's Run. Different types of people in different occupations, other than politicians and lawyers and actresses and ice queens and those kind of things.
Well, we are, I mean, there's so much life out there. And I think I have found like when I started, and then you're going back a couple of days ago, decades ago, a couple of days ago. See, I am a senior now. Uh, that it was very much about coming out because it was still a big freaking deal. Now it's like,
Yeah.
so it's not the theme anymore. And
No.
I don't think readers line up to say, oh, unless it's a period piece.
Right.
You know, I was talking to another author, Matt Converse. He's kind of like the gay man's Hitchcock. Books are
Right.
great. They're very, and it's not so much horror as it is very intense stuff. But I said what I loved is that his characters are gay. That's it. It's
Yeah.
not like a big reveal about that. And I feel the same with your characters are gay. Okay,
Yeah.
we know this. This is life. This is like when you go to the like, no, I'm gay. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do feel there's a constant coming out because no, my spouse is not a man,
Yeah. Yeah.
although she does fix things.
Absolutely.
She's very handy. And when I try to fix things, it falls apart. The shelves behind me, actually, right before I talked to Jess Chandler, they collapsed.
Oh,
That's the difference between Heather doing something and when I do
I understand completely.
something. Yes. Now, so in your day to day life, so you just what's your advice when the aspiring writer who says, I got this idea and it won't let me go. I was walking down the street. Do you tell them, take the notes, let the characters lead? What would you say to that?
Yeah. That's absolutely it. Just sit down and just open your mind, listen to your characters. They're going to tell you where they want to go. I am most definitely not a plotter. I tried that once and it turned out miserably.
Yeah,
I just basically sit down in front of the keyboard and listen to what the characters have to say and let them lead the story. Sometimes it goes where I think it might be going, and other times they throw twists and turns in there that I had no idea was coming, but it works out really well. So, sit down and write it. You're going to write it, rewrite it again until you feel like you've got everything in it that you need. But the biggest thing is just don't quit.
right,
Keep
correct.
keep plugging along. Use beta readers, use other people
Absolutely.
to give you some advice, and when you're ready, either publish it yourself or submit it to a publisher.
A lot of really good ones out there, as you know.
Yes.
You're with Affinity and Annette and Ann Gardner also did one of these,
Yeah.
another
Yeah.
Affinity writer.
Yeah.
I actually became well. I knew Aaron and I know Nancy
Yeah.
and of course Renee McKenzie and Erica Lawson, who are also Rainbow, because you got to add the Rainbow Affinity
Yeah.
Rainbow, because if not, you get a totally different publisher.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, we're with Blue Feather, who I was with 100 years ago.
Right. Right.
So I like going over to see. Well, I last time I saw you guys was in New Mexico. Went over. I was like the net. Last time I
Right.
saw you, I was doing shots with you in Albuquerque. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy was actually the first person to approach me. I started my writing adventure trying to self-publish using Smashwords,
oh,
and
okay.
while I'm a fairly decent storyteller, I literally suck at editing and formatting and cover art and those kind of things. Well, she had read a couple of the stories that I had put on Smashwords and said, why don't you give Affinity a shot? So, I submitted. Bailey's Run, of course, was the first one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of been ongoing from there. 4 to 5 books every year, and um, 11 years later, we're still clicking along.
Yeah, I know Nancy's a doll. I love her, and the late Erin O'Brien. Yeah, it's just, but it's like, yeah, she has a way of spotting things like that, and it's like,
Yeah,
and self-publishing does work for some folks, and Isabella turned it into a whole publishing company herself,
right, right.
because she got turned down with All These Faithful, got turned down everywhere.
Yeah,
But I don't think people realize when you self-publish, one, you need an editor. I cannot stress this enough. You need an
yeah,
editor, an actual
yeah,
editor. Uh, someone you're paying, someone is this is their job. They're going to tell you, no, this is spelt wrong. That's spelled wrong. That, and that car door is still open. It's
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not possible to do that. You know, that's the
Yeah.
big one. It's not possible to do that. That's
And
not a real
and
thing.
and I knew I didn't have the skills and I didn't have the time or the interest. I want to create. I don't want to cut my work apart. Let
Right.
somebody do that for me and tell me, okay, this just doesn't work. You need to rework this. And
Hmm.
I'm perfectly fine with that. But I like to stay more on the creation side than the correction side, so to speak.
Yes. And that to create, and then you have to and let someone else do the cover and let someone else do the heavy
Yeah,
lifting. And
yeah,
yes, it is an awesome thing. And you work a day job too. So,
I do, I do. Yeah,
yeah. And with everything going on in the world, it's very interesting times that we live in, especially in your state. You got some fun going on there.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun here too. I'm times I do miss Massachusetts. Just saying. But we've got more books on the way. So you just like, I mean, you always were prolific, but all of a sudden, I mean, I've got one, two, three. You've got a lot of voices in your head. What's going on there, Allie? Yeah, are you just over inspired, or just it's just the iron was hot?
Well, the iron was hot, and July was my birth month, so
Yes.
I talked Julie, the primary owner of Affinity, and to let me try doing two releases in 1 month. You know, an attempt to spur some interest, especially in the second book, the Wolf and the Unicorn, because it is so incredibly different from what I've ever done in the past.
Yes, it
So
is. Yeah.
that was a unique experience, and it's the first book that I've ever put out directly onto KU. We've been doing a lot of pushing to get pre-sales and ebooks
Right.
and prints, of course, and it will be coming out probably within the next few days in Audible as well. So we're trying to make sure we're hitting all platforms so we can touch more readers. But it's just, when the iron's hot, you strike it. And you know, I had to laugh at somebody the other day asked me if I was writing. It's like, yeah, I've got 3 stories started. And it's like
Yeah, you're right.
you have to sit down and write and get the voices out of your head. I mean, if
Right.
not,
Sure.
you're not going to sleep. You can't concentrate. You can't focus. So you might as well sit down and get it out. So, I write a lot at night. Usually I work remotely from home and I take usually my lunch hour and try to get some writing done or some editing. And, on the weekends, I do a lot of binge writing. If it flows, I'll sit in front of a computer for 6 hours.
Yeah.
So, and then sometimes I'll go for months and not write anything. So just, you know, when it hits, it hits. And thank goodness it still hits.
It's been hitting a lot because we have Sullivan's Trace coming up
Yeah.
about the family horse ranch. That's coming, you said October?
October, yes. And it's a book about a young woman who moves back to the family farm after her father passes. And their long term vet lives next door to them. She raises championship quarter horses, and they're Palominos. So if you haven't ever seen a golden Palomino, they're one of the most beautiful horses
They're
ever.
gorgeous. Yes.
And Doc Barton, the vet, decides he's going to retire, and his granddaughter, um, Bryn, is also a vet, and she's been working the racehorse circuit. Well, she is convinced to move in and take over his practice. So Bryn and Sullivan, the main character, um, create a relationship. They met briefly when they were younger, but neither one of them knew about their true selves at that point, and so they start feeling the sparks of a relationship. And a tragedy with one of the young foals really brings them together as they fight to save.
Oh,
And just as they're about to start their relationship, another tragedy befalls Sully, and her brother and his wife are tragically killed in an automobile accident in Atlanta. So not only is she starting a new relationship, she has suddenly become mom to an adorable 8-year-old. and it's a fun tale, and I think people will enjoy it. The kid is just fantastic, and a lot of activity.
8-year-olds are fabulous. That's
Yeah,
our Beans, who's our great niece slash grandkid, grand munchkin, is 8 now, and it's like, oh my gosh, where does this come from? I was not like that at 8. I swear I wasn't. So, oh yeah, so Sullivan's Trace is looking great. So I want to remind people links in the description below for everything. There's going to be your author page at Affinity, and we got links to Amazon. And I'm telling you, this is like completely just your books are so great because they cover a scope. Like even these three. You've got Instant Family, and then The Wolf and the Unicorn. Because I first read it, I thought paranormal because it's like, oh, Allie's got a new paranormal. Oh, that's not what that is. But this is fun too. I like this. I mean,
yeah,
erotica is always good, and but it's just I want to stress it's an actual relationship going on here, people.
yeah. And I tried in the podcast, and Annette and I did, to explain the title to that, "The Wolf and the Unicorn," because people do think, paranormal. Here we go. It's not at all. It was regarding tattoos, and there's some very specific significance to the tattoos that you'll find out in the book. So it's not paranormal at all. A little out of this world, baby, but it's not paranormal.
Not paranormal. And I did learn, and the link to that page if you want to hear Allie reading from this, which is fabulous, and you'll hear what unicorn and wolf are the tattoos are about if you see that broadcast.
Yes.
I saw it, which actually helped me. I was like, there's a little bit of cheating though pre-interview. It's like, oh, okay, she's talking about the books I'm going to talk to her about. Let's go there. That's helpful. But you, wow, you've been so busy. It's just hard to catch my breath in here. After you're finishing Sullivan's Trace, now are you working on you have 3 books in the works. Do you have 3 more books in the works, or is this something else on the horizon post?
Um, we're already into our 25 schedule.
Yeah.
Sullivan's Trace will be my last book for 24. I've got an adorable book coming out probably February or March called Fairy Tale, with tail spelled Tail Farms, and it's about a semi-retired vet and her wife who is retiring as a school teacher, and they buy this old chicken farm and they turn it into a home for all the unwanted animals in the shelters to keep them from being euthanized. And uh, there's several different twists in there. They get involved with a young girl's basically foster home, who come and do some volunteering, and love relationships start, and it's just a very cute tale. They have a all woman campground is part of the revenue fund to help feed
Wow.
the animals, and it's a very fun story. I had a blast writing it. um, there's been a lot of feedback for the blank page, people wanting blank white page, people wanting a sequel, so I've started that.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
And just a few other ideas that I've been working on. I'm still a fourth book. I'm still trying to finish up the Cowgirl series and add a third book. But it's just like whichever characters scream the loudest is the one that's
In your spare time, because you're not sleeping, obviously.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Was that your dog or mine back?
it was mine.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's my Velcro dog.
They're great. Heather's with our big old rescue, who thinks she's one of the cats. It's like you can't fit under there. No.
Yeah.
Well, it's so lots on the horizon. I don't think when you said the 23, the publishers actually map out how many books they're going to release, what's on the schedule. It's actually these things are planned. And I have noticed that Affinity is doing the audiobooks fairly quickly.
Right.
So that's awesome. I mean, that's
Yeah.
great because a lot of people would prefer to do audio now or
Right.
need to. I know a friend of ours, she just simply can't see anymore to read.
Right.
So,
Well, we've been very fortunate that we found a good group of uh, narrators. Heidi Benhammer, Rebel Knight, Susan Knight. Rebel Knight is the person that's going to be doing the Wolf and the Unicorn. Um, Ashley Clements does quite a few of Annette's books, and they're just a wonderful bunch to work with. And we've had a lot of fun making those available to readers as quickly as possible. And we've started working on some backlist books, you know, 3, 4 years old, and some of them even
all right.
older, just to get those out as other options for people who to take advantage of the Audible books.
That's an impressive group of readers there too. I mean,
Yeah,
and those they work hard. I'm sorry. They really do. And then they have to work with the editors and the authors. And it's like, well, how I know you spelt it like this. What do you mean it's pronounced like that? You know?
yeah, and that's been a lot of fun working with Susan Knight. She's in Canada, and of course, I'm deep south, and we pronounce things a bit differently. So we've had a good chuckle or two over words, and so it's been a lot of fun and a lot of good laughter going on.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, that would be the South. I mean, because you're right. I'm looking at a map across from me because we set
Yeah,
up Bean's side of the office has the map and the solar system and that stuff up on the walls. Because she's 8 and you do that.
yeah.
The other side, we have a chalk. I painted one of the closets as a chalkboard.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Kids are
Yeah,
fun. Well, I am
absolutely.
excited. I mean, let's make sure I'm not blocking the cover there. Your cover. I do that sometimes during this. Uh, these are awesome books. They really are. I can't recommend them enough. And if you're not familiar with some of the other books, and go to Allie's page at Affinity Rainbow. I links in the description below. And looking forward to Sullivan's Trace. That's awesome. So
Thank you.
we are running a little short on time, a bit.
Okay.
And thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I was a little bummed, but only because we found out the other day that the future president's going to be in town with her running mate, like right now.
Oh wow. Oh,
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I got to talk to Allie Spooner.
well, I appreciate the invite and you taking the time to speak with me. And
It's so much fun for me to do this. It really is. I've got to be honest. I mean, it's an excuse to talk to authors. And Ned had said this too. And I'm like, that's what I always say. We are all in this together.
absolutely.
Yes. And the LGBTQ books are in threat of being, no pun intended, shelved and
Yeah,
banned. And we are being banned. But these are great books. And let's let people know about them. All right. So
absolutely.
check it out. Check out Allie's work and her future work. And thank you so much again. And bye, folks. See you next time.
Thank you.